Hello and welcome to today's demonstration of the WTIN.com intelligence channel Digital Textiles, which can be found just over here under the intelligence menu where it says Digital Textiles. Now, to access this content, the first thing we're going to have to do is log on, which is just in the corner here where it says sign in. So just going to click that and enter our details into here, and then we'll be able to access the content. Now if you click remember me, that should keep you signed in on this computer, so it's recommended to click that. And now we'll be logged in and it should say welcome just in the corner there, so you know you're logged in. Now if we go to the intelligence and click Digital Textiles, we can start taking a look at the channel itself. So now that we're on this channel, you can see here this is all about digital textile printing. So we've been covering the digital textile printing market since 2014, and we've been continually updating data every half year, adding to the complete collection of data that we have on this particular page. Now, the biggest feature of this page is what we call the market tracker, and this works as an interactive view of the global digital textile printing market. And if I click on that, we can have a look at some of the different statistics that we have on here. So like I mentioned, we've been doing this for a good number of years. Since 2014 we started collecting that data. So what I'm going to do is just go back in time, and we can click on some of these over here, and we can take a look today at 2015 and the figures over there. So we have all these different statistics available on here, and this right now is the worldwide overview. So this is all the different statistics concerning digital textile printing in 2015. Now obviously you can select multiple years and see how these have grown, and you'll notice there that we do also update the data every half year, so you can see how that year is progressing at the 6-month mark. But if you want the full year summary, it's best to select just one of the full years, like I've done here for 2015. Now going from here, what you can do is firstly start by selecting a region that you'd like to learn more about. So we can click here perhaps on Europe, and you'll see there that the map over here has updated to focus on Europe, and then as well we've got all these statistics that have also updated. Now what you can do additionally is then start taking a look at individual countries. So there you have all of mainland Europe listed over there, and then if we want any particular information we can then click on any of these countries. So you can click on one, or if you want to hold down the control button, you can actually select more than one to examine. So if we select Germany here, now I'm holding down control, and then if I click Italy as well, you'll see that that's combined the both, and it's now looking at both of those countries and their activities. Now again, all these statistics are now reflecting what happened with digital textile printing for Germany and Italy in the year 2015. Now what is provided here in these distant statistics is firstly the amount of fabric versus signage printing. So you can see that split over there. And then next we have the volume. So this is looking at the total production of digitally printed fabric for that particular period. So you can see in 2015 the combination of Germany and Italy produced 180 million square meters of digitally printed fabric. If I just go down slightly, you can then see the width ratio. So what we do here is compare the wide versus the super wide format printers. And then if you do want to scroll over any of these, you can actually look there and you can see there is the additional information. So the actual figure that's making up that percentage is listed there when you scroll over the data. Okay, you can click on them as well, and that will give you more specific data just about that particular entry that you've clicked on there. Now there is usually the technology coverage over here, which looks at direct versus sublimation printing. That's something that we have added for 2018. I believe we will be also adding the previous years as soon as that data becomes available. But for now, if we did look at the 2018 one, you would see the split of direct versus sublimation printing technology that is being used in the production. So that's what that would show. Just underneath, we have the printhead period production. So this is looking at these leading printhead brands and seeing how many of these, and percentage-wise, you can see there. So how many of these different printheads are actually being used in these machines, you can see those statistics listed there. Then we have the prices of the machines just to the right of that. So that's looking at the different costs used. Again, this example looking at Germany and Italy. So you can see there the majority of the machines are these over $250,000. And then finally, on the bottom right, we then have the speed segments. So this is looking at a variety of different speeds, again, that are being used in these different countries, what these machines are capable of. So the majority there is the high-speed machinery. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the trends analysis. So you can see just if we go to the top again, you then have the trends analysis over here. Now, if any of this data is hard to read at all, you can also click on the full screen mode. That will make things a lot bigger over there so you can really examine that data a bit more. If I just press escape, that'll take us out of that mode so we can see this again. Now, this has kept the same selection that I chose on the period statistics, and it's carried over here. So you can see we are still looking at Italy and Germany. Now we can change that selection if you want, so just deselect those. And then we've got everyone in Europe listed over here. You can also change those regions. So if you did want perhaps to focus on Asia instead, you can click on that. And then you can see all these Asian countries listed over here. Now with this one, we aren't selecting any particular years because this is examining the trends. So you can see how things are moving year on year. So you can see this starts at 2014 and then goes on to show the latest data that we have. And here again, what we cover on this particular screen, once we've chosen our selection, we firstly have the annual production listed over here. So that's looking again at the amount that Asia has contributed in this example. And you can see that has significantly grown over the past 3 or 4 years there. Next, we have the fabric versus signage production ratios. So you can see again that the ratio for fabric printing is a lot bigger than the signage in Asia again. And then we have the machine speeds. So this, again, looking at the high speed being the biggest one. And then the technology production there. So this is showing now. You can see the recent data that we had there for that direct versus sublimation printing. And like I said earlier, we are looking to add the previous data for the other years in the past. So you can see how that trend has also moved over the past few years. We then have the machine widths just to the right of that. So again, the wide format being the most popular versus the super wide. And then the printhead production just to the right of that again. Now going from there, from the printheads, we can then see the annual production by country and year. So these ratio boxes show you who has the biggest production. So you can see there China leading the way, followed by India, then Pakistan, then Thailand, and slowly showing these other countries as well. Now again, if you did want to click on any of these, you can focus the data more. So if you just want to know what happened in China in 2017, you'll see the rest of the data on this page has been grayed out. And now it's focusing solely on that country for that one particular period. Now again, you can hold Control. If you hold down that button, you can then select multiple entries here. So if you do want to compare anything quite specifically, If you hold down Control, you can select as many different options on here as you want. That also applies in the different menus at the top on these regions and these countries, so you can focus on those using that Control button. Now, you might have noticed that we do have another section here called Other. The Other is basically the contribution of other countries that didn't have enough production by themselves to warrant a detailed amount of coverage like we provide for the majority of these countries. The other ones are the smaller countries, and that's grouped together to show the contribution of all these other smaller countries put together and their contribution to the Asian region. So it's just the case that they're not doing enough by themselves. So instead, we still show that contribution, but via what we call other. Then if we just move on, we can have a look at the period summaries. Firstly, you'll see two options there, so the global summaries or the country summaries. Now the global ones you can see here talks about the market as a whole, talks about what's happened over the past year or half a year, depending on the area that you're looking at. And this is worldwide, so we're seeing things like growth and what we predict to happen next, just talking about all of that here. Basically giving a summary of the global market for the past particular period that we're looking at. Then if we want to know more about different countries and their individual markets, just click that switch over there, and then it takes us again to quite a similar layout where you've got these regions you can choose from and these different country flags over here. Now if we click on Europe again, you can see these different countries are listed. If we do want to look at just Germany, we can click that, and that's going to give us the summaries just for Germany, what's happened since we started coverage on them in 2014. So you can scroll all the way down there and see how, in our opinion, these different markets have changed and see what the different trends are and see what we expect to happen next in terms of growth for that particular region. And that's the market tracker. There's a lot on there to play around with, a lot of different tools, a lot of different ways to focus the information. So you can feel free and come back to have a look around here and try and click on some different tables here, check out the different statistics, and do let us know if you need any help with any of this. But it is quite a good format that you can use to really examine all the data and look how these different markets have moved over the past number of years. Finally, if you're ever unsure about how we're defining any of these areas, you can also find the definitions tab at the top here. And if we click on that, that's going to explain how we're classifying all the different criteria that we're talking about. So things such as the speeds of the different machines, how we're defining each one as sampling, low, high, industrial speed, etc. And then you can also see how we've classified the different regions and which countries are contained within those. So there is the definitions tab if you're ever unsure about any of the different topics that we're talking about in any of these other tabs on here. Now, if we just go back to the main Digital Textiles channel page, so something that we've started doing since 2018 is the first of its kind, a ink market review report. You can find this in the intelligence section just to the right of the market tracker, which is where we publish all the different intelligence reports about digital textile printing. So you can see we have done things like examine different countries. But what we're doing in this ink report is a full examination of the ink market in its current state. So we're giving an introduction into the market, going through all the different aspects of the market. So what we're doing here is actually examining all the different ink types you can see across the top there. And then we've got all the different applications. You can see where those different types of ink are usually applied, things like the fabrics they can be used on, how these different inks actually function, and things like what their strengths and drawbacks might be in the decision of using one ink versus another. So if we just go down a little further down this report, you can see it is quite long. That's because we're covering a few different topics in here in regards to the ink markets. What we do have then is things like market figures for 2017. So just examining the past year. Then we're looking at things like ink consumption worldwide. So you can see there looking at the sales in different regions. And if we keep going, you can then see a further breakdown of these different inks and the types of inks being used in these different regions. And then I'll keep going down. So something else is that we also cover the ink prices in this. So this is based on a lot of research that we've done internally, talking to a lot of OEMs and talking about the cost that people are typically paying for inks worldwide. And then you can see that we do have that data aggregated there, and we have put what the average prices are for different ink types in all different regions worldwide. Going further than that, we're then looking at these different regions and their market size, again, per different types of inks. So we're just also summarizing that. And then just to finish this report, we're then importantly looking at the developments and the future of the market. So based on the research that we've done, where we think the market is moving next in terms of digital textile inks and which regions are growing and developing more than any others. So that's us giving our outlook into what we think is going to happen next. And typically these reports are something that we will revisit. Obviously this one is about 2018, but we'll come back to that and update that with any new information, especially looking into the future as well. Now, if we just scroll back up to the main page of the Digital Textiles channel, just click there. If I go down the page, we have another couple of sections. So on the left, what we call the presentations. Now these presentations are mainly gathered from our digital textile printing conferences that we've also been holding and hosting ourselves since 2014 as well. Now at these different conferences, we do have a lot of talks and discussions on different topics affecting digital textile printing, and the majority of those we have recorded and made available on the website. So if you did want to look at any of these, you can scroll through the different presentations just using the circles at the bottom there. But if we do want to have a look at one of these reports themselves, one of these presentations, we can click on that. And you can see here, it's just a case of clicking there.
Hello,
and then that
still good
presentation
morning.
will start. So you can just watch that on your browser over here. And those are all available as part of the subscription. So you can see that whole section there, and that does go on. There's a lot of different presentations available there addressing all different challenges that people face within digital printing and how they've hopefully been able to overcome them. Just on the right, we then have what we call the Insight section. So with the Insight, these are more of the articles that we're publishing. So you do have the reports above in the intelligence section, just at the top there, and then the market tracker with all the data, and then the presentations, which are all the videos. The Insight are more of the articles. So these look at different topics, typically company activity, but it can be looking at countries and new innovation, new machinery as well, like you can see there. If we do click on that, you'll see it is quite different. These are just articles that do go into quite a bit of detail, and this one here talking about the launch of this new machine. So always interesting to know, and there's a lot of those being published every day, so you will see this section refreshing quite often. Again, you can click on these circles, look at the different pages, or you can click See All, and that'll show you all the Insight articles that we've published about digital textile printing. If I just go down again, we then have a pricing section. So this looks at what's going on economically on a more raw material level, looking at different commodities that will then become part of the fabric production. So that can obviously have a knock-on effect. If you are doing the digital textile printing, you may want to keep a track of what the prices for the raw materials are, as that will have an effect on the fabric. So that's why we provide pricing coverage over there. And then we also have just to the right this section called news. So the insight above is articles every day talking about all these big topics within digital textile printing. The news, however, looks at everything else that's going on. So these are typically the things that aren't going to affect everyone, but are still quite interesting to know. And if we did click on one of these, for example, here, this would typically be a few paragraphs long, just looking at this particular topic and just saying what has happened. So it's good to keep an eye on the news and on the insight if you're interested in daily updates for what's going on in digital textile printing. The videos are updated typically whenever we have any new interviews or hold a new conference. And then the market tracker is updated every 6 months with new data. So you'll get one at the halfway point throughout the year. And then also at the end of every year, we'll update that with the full data for that entire year. Now, just the last thing is a small feature here on the right-hand side called the Text Print Selector. Now, if I click on that, this is a way of choosing your ideal textile printing machine. So you can actually do that one of two ways. The first is choosing by brand. If we just let that load, that is going to show us a list of all the available brands, and you can choose any of these and then see the machines that that particular brand offers. So if we click on this one here for DJI, just scroll down and press submit. Now that's just going to load all the different printers and their parameters that DJI are offering. Now, if you did want any more information, it does have the link there to the website, to the manufacturer's website, where you can then find out any additional information. But there it gives you all the parameters of the machines that this company offer, and you can look into all of them, and you've got a couple of pages there of results as well. Now, if we go back, we can restart the search and then choose by feature instead. Now with the features, you're actually choosing here the machine based on what you're looking for, regardless of who the manufacturer is. So you can choose from any of these different parameters here. You can click on any of these. So if we want quite wide, we can click on that and then look at the speed there, the productivity, maybe select a couple of these. And then if we just press submit, that will then show us the results of all the machines that meet the criteria there that we've chosen. So you've got quite a mixture of these different manufacturers and the machines that they're offering that do what we're looking for. So always quite interesting to have a look at those, see how they compare against each other. And if there's anything there in particular that you're looking for, you can see all these different results listed and specifically where they fit into that range that we've chosen. So that's the text print selector. So that's just located there on the right-hand side of the digital textiles page, just over there. Now, just the last thing is that you can also search through the archive of content that we have available on this page. You can do that by clicking search over here, and then you can select the digital textiles page that we're on now. So we want to limit the results to digital textiles, and then you can type in any terminology there. So if we follow on from our previous example and we look at what Germany are doing, we can click on that, and that will show us all the activity that's happening in Germany to do with digital textile printing. And you can see there's a lot of different pages there that you can scroll through and have a look at all these different results on here. Okay, but I think that covers everything. If you do have any questions, then do feel free to send an email to sales@wtin.com and a member of our team will be happy to help you. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.